what up? Welcome to another episode of Water for the Thirsty. The word simply, the word refreshing. I'm the facilitator, host of the conversation. I'm Jared. With me today, we got Courtney, Lorraine, and Jerome, who's far, far away in the land down under. Lorraine is also in a new location where it's warm and sunny. She's sporting a fancy hoodie there. I don't understand how that is work, but hey, Lauren, it's good to see you. Congratulations
Yes.
finishing the faith journey.
Thank you. Thank you.
Do you have prospects lined up or still figuring out the transition?
Well, I just transferred, and then we're going to see what the Lord does.
All right. New Year to everyone. This is our first episode for 2025. We're starting over the Bible reading plan from the beginning. So we in Genesis, Luke, and Proverbs. Just getting started because it's the third day. So we like between Luke 1 and 3, Genesis 1, 5, and 6, and Proverbs 3. Although I believe because of the time we missed in the end of the year last year, much of our conversation will come from stuff that closed out the year, but we'll see how it goes. Courtney, my understanding is you have a little something there that stood out to you.
Yeah.
Excited to hear about it.
All right. Well, this actually came from, I believe, today's reading from Luke chapter 3. And guess I'll be looking at verse 14 like more specifically, but the I guess what I was wrestling with was as the Baptist was talking, the line in 14 where he says, let me open. Oops, my bad, I closed the chapter. Okay, so he was talking to some of the soldiers in this particular part, but and he said, and what should we do? They're asking him, what should we do? He replied, don't extort money and don't accuse people falsely. Be content with your pay. I don't know why that stuck out to me, being content with your wages. And then that led me on, let me look that up. Because I was just in the midst of all of that, what does that have to do with in this example of what John is talking about? So I looked it up, and that led me to 1 Timothy chapter 6, verses 6 to 12. But the main line out of that again is godliness with contentment is great gain. All right, so that sets the stage for what my thought was. And what about contentment is considered godliness? Like what about that urge to be that way? How do we practice that? How do you feel content? Like, I know it's telling you to do it, but it's
Go back to that verse again, 1 Timothy 1.
6, chapter 6 is 6 through 12 or 6 through 11.
1 Timothy 6.
And I could read that whole. At least I have 6 to 11 open right now. But godliness with contentment is great gain, for we brought nothing into the world, and we can't take anything out of it. But if we have food and clothing, we will be content with that. Those who want to get rich fall into temptation and a trap, and into many foolish and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction. For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. Some people eager for money have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs.
My version has you gain a lot when you live a godly life, but you must be happy with what you have. We didn't bring anything to the world. We can't take anything out of it. If we have food and clothing, we will be happy with that. I'm wondering how good the translation is happiness for contentment. What do you think, Jerry?
So it's interesting you have that version. I don't know if I should even try to pronounce this. Samayak Bechelko, which is happiness with one's lot or portion or piece. So it's speaking more to a state of mind, a permanent state of mind, of satisfaction in your lot. So I guess wherever you are in life, as long as where you are in life is in the will of God, which is more, which to me is clearer and more broader than this narrow interpretation of just be content with your wages, just be content with your house, whatever. It's more a state of mind that if this is the will of God for my life right now, I'm good.
The amplified.
Sorry, go ahead, Lauren.
No, I was saying the amplified verse 6 says, "But godliness actually is a source of great gain when accompanied by contentment." And then in brackets it has that contentment which comes from a sense of inner confidence based on the sufficiency of God.
Ooh, I like that.
I like the
I
part.
guess that's why some people even with some people with money aren't content, right? No matter how much they have, because it's not. And worse yet, I think sometimes the reason God has to test us by removing money, resources, whatever, is because we are not content in His sufficiency. It's about us and what we could do and what we could achieve. And if we feel we don't have control to do that, then we panic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The idea of sufficiency is a big idea in there. Is it enough? You eat something and you say, "Oh, that doubles was Moorish."
Yeah, boy.
You want is a desire for more. To what end? Is it going to increase your satisfaction? Is it going to, because we live in a society today where we consume not for our needs but for the pleasure of consumption.
Yep.
How many shoes do I have in my closet? I can only wear but one at a time, right? So I'm not buying shoes because I need shoes. I'm buying shoes because I want shoes.
Yep.
Because
I can.
So that there's and I think part of it is the context here. It's not just having more, but it's that desire to have more that opens the door to all these other things because it's rooted in the lack of contentment and sufficiency. So it's not saying don't get a big huge flock, but when there's a desire insufficiency in there that's driving this, you end up pushing yourself in dangerous territory. So the idea, I think, is you gain a lot when you live a godly life and are happy with what you have, or how Lorraine's version says it. A godly life accompanied with self-satisfaction or satisfaction, contentment in what you have is great gain. Is even more than gaining, filling up your coffers. Like the parable of the guy who had the big harvest, and he said, "No, I'll tear down my barns and build a bigger one tomorrow, right? And I'm gonna have grain for." We really gonna do it all of that. Not that it's bad to have it, but if you have it in your content, and you're being driven by this desire just to have more, you open yourself up to all kinds of evil, because now you're cutting corners, now you're stealing, now you're bullying, now you're. I would even argue, it's one of the side effects of your capitalist system or your shareholder type system. Shareholders are not really concerned about anything but profit. in the stock exchange, right? If your
Yep.
business not making profit, they done with you, they're selling and they're gone, right? So they
You don't
only
want to
want to
technical
know.
or anything.
They only want to know that you're turning profit, that they getting more, right? Give me more, give me more, give me more, and then companies, in an attempt to supply that more and that profit, start, making people pay deductibles on the health insurance.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
In order to drive that more.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Or we start adopting policies. We don't support Colin Kaepernick because it won't be good for the bottom line, but then we may support Colin Kaepernick because it's good for the bottom line. And so our decision making is now tied to and driven by this desire for more. What's going to feed the ratings? What's going to generate the profits? What's going to give me more? As opposed to what's good in this instance, what's best in this instance, what's in the public interest in this instance,
But Jared, when I think about it, that was the problem for Adam and Eve, right?
Absolutely.
You have everything available to you. There's gold. How did the Bible put it? Even the gold and the jewels of the land were fair. So you have everything available to you, what you want. Well, you're not trusting in the sufficiency of Christ, and I think that is where this burning desire for more, for more, for more comes from, because you're not trusting in God's sufficiency. So it's like maybe He doesn't actually know best. Maybe where He has me, what He's given me isn't. Let me go see for myself, and then
and He may well give you more, right?
Mm-hmm.
He may well expand your territory and bless you beyond you could even do it, and all of that, and for reasons that may have to do with you and may have to do with others. Who knows? He may do it. But what's your driver? What's your motivation?
I think on the other side of that too is like there are people who are anti-wealth because it's bad.
Because wealth is bad?
More like, so wealth to them meaning more, right? Oh, why do you need that God? Why aren't you content with what God? It's like,
Yeah. I often see that as the misery loves company thing. So it's okay for you to achieve and excel once it's not more than them.
So it's
And
like,
I mean, my thing is, I don't want what God has for anybody else. I just want everything He has for me. And if what He has for me is to, drive a VW Beetle and live in a 1-bedroom, then okay, that's what He wants for me. And if He wants me to live in Malibu, then okay, that's what He wants for me.
Do you really think that God has a preference there? Is what I want for you, or is that really something that I am now determining based on my efforts, my aspirations, my industry? How much of that is God and how much of that is not God?
I'm glad you asked it that way and you reference industry, because if, for example, God wants me to, my mission field is Starbucks, and He needs me to be the head barista there, then evidently Malibu ain't in the cards. It's unlikely. Let me not say evidently.
Yes.
Malibu's in the cards.
Not unless you have something else on the side.
Right? So, but if he wants me in, let me be a little sacrilegious, Blackstone or BlackRock, sorry, to kind of help them straighten themselves out with all their ESG stuff. Hopefully we don't get banned. Maybe the chateau in Paris and the summer home in Saint-Tropez are in the cards, but it's just, to your point, is industry and whatnot, right? I don't know that God is going to say, yes, Jared, I need you to have a 2025 Porsche Cayenne, right? But if He gives you opportunities and you capitalize on the opportunities, and He tells you, yes, you can have that, as opposed to, no, take all that money and go donate it to Shriners Children's Hospital. Well, yeah. But in my mind, it just comes down to what is the will of God for my life right now? And if this is the will, be content, not in your circumstances, but in the fact that you're in His will.
I struggle with that. The micromanaging idea that's there. I feel I struggle with it. Not that you're wrong. I'm just wrestling with that in my mind. I feel that God kind of gives the agency to each individual to kind of chart their own course, but in consultation with Him and in faithfulness to Him. Right? I
Yeah.
don't. I
It's
don't
almost like
know how much he's
the
saying.
color just stay within the lines.
Yeah, no, it's like I don't know how much he's saying. You know, your calling in life is my intent for you to be as a basketballer and you to be a doctor. I don't know. I feel like he gives us enough agency to make that choice. Or whichever chart course you choose, there's faithfulness to the way of the kingdom and those kinds of things is what's being expected. How
But then remember, he'll also gift you with talents and skills that if you hone, you can. There's some people. I'm 5'10". I ain't ever gonna be Shaq, as hard as I try, right? There are people who are just gifted with programming or gifted with gab or gifted with. I will sing in a choir. Don't ask me to do a solo. I don't think any amount of effort, practice, I am not going to be one of these. Yeah, it ain't happening. Within reason, though, he could say, "You have skills in business, you have skills in IT. Go,
absolutely. I'm with you there. There are things that are naturally endowed to people, and then there are things that you can develop, and I say Michael Jordan was naturally endowed with height and athleticism. He had to work on everything else,
Yep,
right?
I get.
But does that mean that his calling was basketball? That God assigned him basketball? Let me put it that way. Does that mean that? Yes, we can agree. God gave him the gift of height and athleticism, right? And if you follow everybody in his family, nobody in his family tall like it. His brothers all short. He wasn't supposed to be so tall, so he was kind of unusual in that regard, right? But was it supposed to be basketball? Could he be a swimmer like Michael Phelps? Like, did God really care what he did with it in those specifics? No, not swimming for you, basketball. So that's where I am. That's where I'm wrestling with that. How much God is in the. I know He's intimately involved with the details of our lives, but I don't know that.
I think you usually right word, Jared. You don't know how much micromanaging he
Right.
gets.
He's intimately involved in the details, and I don't believe he's micromanaging. I think both can be true.
Yeah.
But Lorraine, you look like you're wrestling with that. While you reflect on what you're wrestling with, I'm gonna take this comment from Celion. Does this contentment mean that we're going to strive for better or more?
That we aren't going to.
Yeah. If I have contentment, doesn't mean I'm no longer, I'm not.
You should be content, meaning you're not striving to do anything better than where you're at.
Well, let's ask a question. What's the difference between complacency and contentment? I'm gonna pull up my chat GPT here and see what.
And that's why I really like the definition. Yes, that's why I really like the definition that Lauren read. Right? It's more a state of mind in the sufficiency of Christ. It's not about your circumstance, your salary, or whatnot. You know what I mean? Because there are people who be like, well, this is just what God have for me right now. No, the degree He wanted you to finish, that you refuse to finish because you just lack discipline. And then, don't turn around and blame that on God, right?
Yeah, exactly. We were turning around and blame it on Him. God didn't have that for me. No, you were just lazy.
But then in fairness, we speak to the devil, right? We blame the devil for everything, and the devil was like, yo, you did that yourself. That stuff you set in motion. I tempted you 5 years ago and you got the habit going, so that ain't even me anymore, right?
I was trying to log into my account, but I had to do it free. All right. All right, so contentment. Contentment is that key difference because they have a whole lot of long reading here. I'll go into the last thing and then work my way backwards. The difference between contentment and complacency lies primarily in the emotional state and drive for improvement. Contentment definition. Contentment refers to a state of satisfaction and peace with one's current situation without yearning for more. It's a healthy feeling of acceptance and gratitude for what you have. It's not about giving up on growth, but rather finding happiness and peace in the present moment. Complacency, on the other hand, refers to a self-satisfied state where someone becomes overly comfortable or indifferent, often to the point of neglecting improvement or change. It can be seen as stagnation or lack of ambition. Complacency involves a failure to recognize or address potential issues, often because the person feels they are good enough as they are. Key difference. Contentment is about being at peace where you are while still being open to growth, while complacency often involves a lack of ambition and tends to settle for less than what you could achieve or improve. Contentment is about balance. Complacency is about stagnation.
Okay.
Drops mic, walks off stage.
Well, thank you, ChatGPT.
Yeah.
So no, I don't believe, to respond to the question, based on the definition here, contentment doesn't mean you're not going to strive for better or more. You're in that mindset, you probably have moved from contentment to complacency.
I guess it's what's your drive for more.
Exactly. What's driving the more.
Yeah.
Or what's not driving you to more.
Right. We're back. But when you were talking about like the micromanaging part, like, so does God call people to be in spaces and places? Like, I know he could use you wherever you're at, but does he place you in certain places on purpose?
I would absolutely say yes. Joseph, we have lots of stories in the Bible.
Right.
With people.
Right. So would that be considered a micromanaging? I guess I'm trying to understand what you meant by micro. Because that's what I thought. I was like, well, he puts people in places on purpose. I mean, I guess you could go against it and choose not to, but there's places we're called to be in.
So let's go with Joseph, so I can illustrate this. Joseph ended up in Potiphar's house. And then he was faithful with what was available to him and made the most of the situation where he was. I'm not sure necessarily that God said, go be the leader and the chief person in Potiphar's house. Because he could have chosen to just lay low, keep his head down,
True.
But then this is where it comes down again to having clarity on what God is calling you to do. And again, to ChatGPT's definition, what is the motivation? What is the thing that's driving you to do or not to do? If it's him, great. And if it's you, that's where you can run into problems. So I think we always have to be clear on what the motivation is. I don't know that, going back to the example of like a vehicle, I don't know that God is going to sit and say, Jared, for your whatever birthday, you have to get this Porsche. And it has to be white with a beige interior. And I don't know that he's going to get into those things. He's already given you taste and preferences. You could buy an Escalade for the same price. You could buy a Porsche for the same price. There may be a specific reason he wants you to go to the Porsche dealership to be a light an example to somebody working there. I don't know. But outside of that, it's like, the lines color between them.
Yes. At least that's what I'm thinking. Now, I would also argue that, the story of Moses suggests that for some individuals, he really does have a select calling. That Moses had good leadership skills, and he took those good leadership skills and was minding the sheep, right? And God said, hey, come from there, I have something else for you to do over here, right? So there are definitely instances of that.
But Jared, to that point, or not but, and to that point, Jesus was a carpenter for not 30 years, but you get me, for his adult life, right? And probably some of his teen years. His calling and mission was to die, resurrect, and save the world, but on his way there, he's like, yeah, I'll do the carpenter thing.
And I don't even know if God would have said, no, don't be a carpenter, be a fisherman. Right? How much of Jesus being a carpenter was because he didn't grow up by Peter and he grew up with Joseph?
Correct.
Right? And if he had ended up, by somebody else, he might have been a farmer. If he ended up by Abel's descendants, he might have been Abel and descendants. But you know what I mean? By somebody else who was farming. Jesus could have very easily been a farmer before he was given this divine calling.
Is there a difference between being called and chosen?
Depends on how you're using those terms. I would establish a commonality on the term before I establish a response, offer a response. Called and chosen in what sense? Just in general?
Yeah, I was just in general. I could cite some of the characters in the Bible and be like, I feel like some were called and some were chosen. In the example that you were using, like it didn't make a difference whether so and so was doing this or that. It felt like they were called to do this anyway. Whereas, I don't know, Abraham was chosen. Like, you are going to be the father of many nations. I'm gonna pull you up out of here. This is what you're about to do.
If I like to think of it like God calls all of us, but we get chosen when we choose what he has chosen for us.
Yeah.
So if we don't ever choose it, then all we could live our life as is being called, right? So like Nebuchadnezzar, before he had to eat grass for 7 years, he was called, but he wasn't really choosing what God had for him. He was doing his own thing.
Okay.
And then he decided, all right, let me turn that around a bit.
So yes, in terms of coming to Jesus, let's go further. New Testament. Yeah, there's a calling and an invitation that comes to all and sundry.
Mm-hmm.
And when you accept that invitation, you now become chosen. Right? There's a relationship between you accepting and whatnot. I don't believe that Joseph was given an invitation. So he wasn't called in that sense. I believe he was chosen. Hey, you. I need
you. He was given an instruction, not an invitation.
He was more voluntold than.
Here's what's going
to apply for the job. They didn't call that invitation. He applied and then he got. He's like, no, I'm tapping you for this. Hey, come up here. I have something for you.
He's talking about things bowing down to other things and delivering food to his brothers, and then it's like, nah, here's what's gonna happen.
Yeah, Moses and when the burning bush, Moses minded his business, the burning bush. That's a choosing. That's not calling. That's not invitation. Because he said, no, thank you. Please find someone else.
It's like, nah.
I'm good. I'm good right here minding my sheep. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm still on the micromanaging. Okay, so when people in life believe they've talked to God and God told them to go in a specific direction, is that micromanaging? I'm trying to get the extent of what, because versus go, like you were saying, a fisherman versus a carpenter. What if they feel God told them in their communication with him, told them to go? Is that God micromanaging?
Can I give you 2 examples with my own life?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to give those examples because I don't know, even what we want to term micromanaging could vary from person to person.
Mm-hmm.
So almost my entire adult life, I believed I was an introvert. I remember years ago when I was in IT, I even had a sign on my door that says, the more I work with people, the more I like people. So this whole idea of talking to people, engaging with people, God forbid, coaching, mentoring, public speaking, writing a book, what? Never. I'm trying to get a new job because I feel like I'm at my ceiling. I actually wanted to sign up to do a doctorate in artificial intelligence and go for NASA or something, right? And he quite specifically tells me, no, go do an MBA specifically with Andrews, and then I'll have a new career for you. I didn't like the idea, but I went and did it. All the while I'm sending out resumes, whatnot, nothing's happening. I graduate, I think the August. Next month I have a new job in sales and business development, and that opens up a whole new world to me in terms of who I was really called to be, what I was really brought here to do. So there are times he will give you very specific instructions, I think. They might be big, they might be small. There's another night while I was studying, waiting on the train. It's rainy, I have a headache, I'm tired, frustrated, I just want to go home. And he says to me, stay right here. I stay, bump into a buddy of mine I hadn't seen in a long while, we chop it up, whatnot. Turns out he was going through a whole bunch of crap. He had made up his mind he was going to overdose that night. And we end up having a conversation, praying together, whatnot. Fortunately, he decided not to, end his life, right? But there was just a little instruction which seemed kind of like benign, like, why do everything is pointing to me needing to go home, eat something, take some pills, and try to sleep off this headache, and you're telling me just stay here, why? I don't think necessarily anything else during the course of the day, God was like intervening and saying, to this class now, wear this color to school, make sure you use this toothpaste to brush your teeth. I don't think he did any of that, but he just intervened at that point and said, here's this thing I want you to do. So it's like, again, you have these lines you can color within, but appreciate that at any point in time, he might intervene and say, oh, okay, slight course correction, I need this. So it's not that he's micromanaging every facet all the time, but there are specific moments when he'll come in and say, here's what I need right now.
Yeah, so I guess that's what I was saying. So the idea of God micromanaging period doesn't seem to be a thing, because if he told you to do it, it has nothing to do with micromanaging. It's him to giving you an instruction on to do something, and you need to just do it, regardless of how. Like you might have Colgate in your cabinet, and he's like, I need you to go get Crest. And you're like, I don't use Crest, I use Colgate. He's like, I need you to go get that Crest though. And you go to the grocery store, and there's a reason he had you go get that. You know what I'm saying? So it seems very micromanaging, but if it's an instruction given to you by him, call it what you will, go do it.
I think that's why I use the two different terms. He's involved in the intimate details, but he's not micromanaging. So there's agency to make decisions, and then there's moments because he's involved in the details where he'll guide and direct, which is why we have to live by the Spirit.
Yeah,
having those things, it's kind of like, well, then I'm kind of free as long as I don't cross these boundaries. I'm free to kind of pick my color.
That reminds me of Joseph when he's in jail. He's just doing his thing for X amount of years, and he's doing it to the best of his ability. But then there comes a point where God gives him this opportunity to now interpret these dreams, right? And then he shares them, and I feel like that changes the course of everything. But in the midst of him serving in the jail, I think he was showing like contentment, like, all right, I don't know what he was thinking, but he's like, hey, I'm good here.
He was thinking, I'm gonna have to be good here. That's what.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to be good here. I'm doing my thing. Yeah,
in about 2 years extra to get to that place, but yeah. And he was like, "Yo, when you yell, don't forget her, no."
Right.
I was not someone who was content.
He said, "This has been cool, but holler at me."
Holler at me.
Yeah.
More years to work out that contentment piece.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when you were giving the example. I remember one specific time I was looking for something in particular, and I needed to go to Best Buy to get it. And the Best Buy that's closest to me, I just knew it didn't have it. It was like the chances of it having it, it rarely ever has it. But I'm like, I'm just gonna go to a different Best Buy, and I heard the Lord specifically saying, no, go to that Best Buy, go to the Best Buy. And I was like, but they don't never have it. He's like, no, I go to the Best Buy. So I was like, all right, I'll go to the Best Buy. Must gonna see something different, because hey, I'm not gonna try to go against what I feel is a strong direction. So I go up there and I look for it, and it ain't there. Right? It's not there. But who I run into is a gentleman that's in the same aisle that is just perplexed. And I said, hey, brother, you okay? And he was like, yeah, I'm all right, man. And then he's like, no, I'm not. And he just started pouring his heart out to me. And I said, hey, man, can I pray for you? And he was like, you do that? I was like, yeah, why not? I said, God hears your prayers and mine. And I prayed for the brother. I have no idea what happened to him, but I left that store realizing that for whatever reason, I was the agent that God chose, specifically not for my reasons, but for somebody else, because I didn't get what I was looking for.
I love that. Was what I wanted to say. I love that example because God told me go there.
Yeah.
But he didn't tell me I was going to get what I was looking for there. He didn't promise me that.
Yeah, he just told me go there. Yeah.
Told me go there. So, I'm looking for this. He says go here. All right, yeah. Because if you tell me go there and I was looking for this, then that's what I'm going to get there.
Get it, yeah.
No.
Isn't that something we do all the time, though, where we think either we know the end from the beginning or we expect God to tell us? So if God says do this, then evidently this will be the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he purposefully doesn't do that, because if he gives us all the details, then we don't ever really exercise faith or develop patience. Exactly. Our faith that please him, only patient enter heaven. So it's like we shoot ourselves in the foot if we figure we need to know all the details. So it's like if you went there and even after praying with the guy, you still got whatever you were going for, then I was like, yeah, okay. But now you still had to pray for the guy, then still had to leave and go. Mm-hmm. Follow your mind and go to the other Best Buy, and then it's like, really, God?
Imagine if God tell you, I know you're looking for that thing in Best Buy. If they don't have it there, but I need you to go by the Best Buy and talk to a man. You'd have probably say, let me run get this bus and then I'm gonna come back. You're still there.
By which time the man gone?
Absolutely.
So God kind of almost led you to believe that he was giving you instructions to get what you wanted.
It's not about you though.
But here's the thing. This is how we're so selfish in nature, man. It's funny. I don't think when I look back at it, I don't think God ever even promised or anything, gave me any hint that was what I was going for. I just assumed.
Right.
I just assumed because I felt this strong urge and I felt like I heard him telling me I had to go there, that it must be because this is what I want.
That's what happened to me on my book. I heard him say, I can't help you until you finish the book. And
yeah.
Like, all right, that means God want me to finish this and become a writer and publish. And he's like, I just needed to write out the idea. When it come at the end, like how your story play out, I needed you to unpack the idea so that you could understand it and you could order your life by it. But wow. If you want to spend your money, go ahead.
Wow.
I ain't stopping you from spending your money.
Yeah.
But here's the beautiful thing, though. The way you unpack the ideas are now impacting us. You unpacked the ideas are now impacting others. And maybe in your unpacking of the idea, that was like what do you want to call it? I don't want to say a demo, but almost like a use case for how you even unpack ideas now. The fluency or fluidity with which you do it, you got the cogs turning, and now
definitely
the book is still there, and people are still going to buy the book and still be impacted by the book. So
there you go.
Yeah, it's always interesting though when you think, this is the answer. This is how this is going to pan out, and God is like,
okay, anything. He's just watch.
Yeah, he's just watch. You don't. Yeah.
In the day you eat of it, you shall surely die.
Sit down. Yeah.
I gotta be careful. We online. So I remember we had a specific retreat, if you will, and I don't know if I can say all this. I put it this way: it turned out that during the retreat we felt that man, this is a little too deep. We know for a fact that one person was blessed. We felt that God sent this person for one specific person because everybody else was like, "What in the world?" I'll put it that. That's about as
much as you can give.
Yeah. without giving out. Okay.
Yes, but that one person, absolutely. I mean, without a doubt, everybody said, "Yep, absolutely." That particular person, that person was there for, because they was absolutely blessed. Everybody else was like,
What in the yeah?
well, yes.
You had a whole retreat for one individual.
Hey,
Yeah.
come on now, come on.
We all spend money so that you could get this.
Correct.
I can't get too many other details. But
I mean, we got the message. That's
right.
all.
That is
Oh,
Ronnie, you good there?
Yeah, I mean, I feel good about that, and I guess add on to it. Is there some sort of charge for believers in when you have this contentment? Is it just something that you can be sharing with other people? You know, I think that put it like this, like in a worldly view, I think they're kind of driven by gaining wealth, this greed, this, as you said, the selfish kind of perspective of living. And I think there's a way that we can share with those that are willing to hear about it, of course, of how you can live in contentment, like giving your examples, from your life to different people. Because I don't think that's the regular thing. I don't think that's the norm. I think a lot of people live with kind of like anxiety and a lot of hopelessness in turn. How do we share that?
That's interesting. If you follow some of these celebrities, you'll hear enough of them say over time that when they started, they didn't have anything. Then they got a whole lot and they still weren't happy. And they had to make these shifts in their lives to be content and find this contentment and peace. And it usually involves some kind of therapist or religion or something, right? That gets them to that place, or some kind of experience that allows them to say, the satisfaction I thought this thing was going to give me, it doesn't give me. And then I had to find the satisfaction. And then I met this level of peace.
Mm-hmm.
And so my first thought is, if I listen to a podcast and I hear Oprah say that, does it really have an impact until I have the experience? How much of it is lived experience versus received wisdom?
I think too, like seeing it, like I don't remember who it is. I don't know if it's Peter, where he was like, I've had much and I've had little.
Paul.
Okay. And so it's like, yes, I think the biggest part of it is lived experience, but I think also it's seeing it around you. So seeing people who have had little and are still thanking God, or still grateful, or still have an attitude of gratitude, and not miserable. And then whether you're wealthy or you're poor, whether regardless of what station in life you're at any particular time, it's that consistent like attitude that you have regardless kind of inspires others to be like, man, like I'm over here stressing, and this person has less than me, and they're not going, they're not freaking out the way I'm freaking out, and I have more than they do, and I couldn't pay one bill, and they can't pay no bills, and they're still content. So it's almost like, I think, seeing it, as well as then it causes you to, it's like a mirror. It causes you to look back at yourself and like, man, like I'm over here fussing and ungrateful, and life could be so much worse. And there are people who have worse and are still managed to be content, and I'm over here doing the most. I think too, we have like the whole grind culture of like go, you gotta get more. It's like, but why? Why do you gotta get more? Like, once again, I think it goes back to that motivation. Like, what's behind your desire for more? Is it God telling you to go do more, or is it you doing more because you want more money to buy more things, or whatever? You know, you wanting to be more self-sufficient, know that you won't ever not pay your bills again if you always get more. Like, that then takes you away from God at the end of the day, so you're not being content either way. But yeah, those are my thoughts.
Well, I believe most of us would love for God to allow us to be content in better and bigger, as opposed to being content.
That's right. I ain't gonna lie to you. I don't want no big house alone, because I just say, who gonna clean that?
Facts.
Who gonna clean all of that? I am quite content in my small house that I don't have to spend every day kind of clean. You know what I mean?
Always I think about more money, more problems, because it's like, you get an fender bender with your little Ford Ranger or something, as opposed to getting a fender bender with, you know, a Lamborghini Urus. Different kind of headache, right? Just insurance and the thing. And I think,
hey, listen,
sorry?
I said, just give me the opportunity to figure it out. That's all. The opportunity to choose. I'll let you know.
I think going back to that definition, as a problem, most of us just not satisfied in the sufficiency of God, in his ability to provide, or the fact that he is intimately involved. And if he says, right now, this is where I need you, just be clear on that. And once you clear, I am where he needs me to be, okay, good. You know, and just be open to whenever he's ready to move you up or prod you, nudge you to. And I think Joseph is a good example. Yeah, he's in prison. He's trying to, you know, do his best in the season he's in. And when God says, all right, time to come out of prison and go back to go to Pharaoh's court, well, okay, I'll go there and I'll do my thing. We didn't see Joseph, you know, trying to politicize and schmooze and try to see how he could get out of prison quicker, and who, you know, if he could bribe a guard or.
He did that with the baker man.
But they look good. They are solid, you know. Whisper something. Put it on good word for me now.
Yeah.
Right.
Listen, other than Job, man.
And then the guy forgot for how many years? 2. until he was in problems, right? And then he's like, Joseph.
All right.
I say, other than Job, man, Joseph, I think is the one person that can say, man, I can't get nothing right, man. Can I catch a break? Can I please catch a break? Every time I think I'm about to do better, boom, something else works happens. It ain't for a short time, it's for a long time. Like, my brother sell me into slavery. I get the slavery, get thrown in here. I got to work hard, and then my master recognizes me and elevates me. And then his wife come after me. I try to do the right thing, I get thrown in prison.
All right. All these people just doing me wrong.
Just doing me wrong, man. Yep. Just doing me wrong. Oh my goodness.
I think that's another example of being voluntold, right?
And even to what Courtney was saying, like the whole charge thing, like I don't think it's effective in that, like, somebody in a quote unquote better, we'll use financial position, telling somebody in a lesser financial position, just be content. doesn't really hit the same. Doesn't really go that well. So once again, I think it's just like an example thing, because to tell somebody that, and it's like, and then you get in the same situation, you're losing your whole mind. It's like, I thought you told me to be content. Well, where's your contentment?
So I would say, take it from another angle, Lorraine. What they potentially could do that generates or contributes to contentment is put them in help them to get into a space of gratitude.
Okay.
So if I'm now just kind of taking a stock of my, so a rich person could say to a person with lesser means, yo, I have all this money, but you know what I would kill for right now? A family. Because I in this big old house by myself. And so orienting the other person to see value in their space and articulate and recognize gratitude for the things that are of value in that space may be helpful in generating some of that peace, contentment.
Possibly.
That's one thing that you could potentially do to aid. Is to encourage people to that space of gratitude. You know, recognizing what is good.
Right.
Well, isn't that in a sense the system that God originally had, where He was like, you know, the poor will always have with us, because people are always going to make bad decisions that may land them in precarious positions. But in God's original plan, if we were not trying to be selfish and helping each other out and doing, if you will, an indentured slavery, where, you know, you had to sell something or you had to do something in order to get your status back, but after a certain amount of time you were still put back on your feet, society would, well, you would hope that it would create more gratitude, right? Because philanthropy, when you got a lot of money, what is that? I mean, unless you're a selfish man and you just quest for power. After I've gotten everything I've wanted to get, and pretty much can do everything else that I can do, what else? Maybe because I've never had that much money in my life, I don't know, but I just don't see it. It's like, I don't want the big 15 room house, because like you said, I want to clean it, and I don't want that many people in my house all the time, right? If I want to throw a party, I'll rent a spot out and everybody can come there and do that. I don't need a bunch of cars, because I'm not going to drive them all, right? I just don't need all this stuff. Yes, I would like to have some nice things, but after that, after I can go somewhere and I don't really want for nothing, and I still got millions, why can't I help some folks?
Right.
Why can't I change a lot of lives? You know what I mean? I don't get it.
And there's some people God don't trust with wealth because they don't get to where you are. if I give you all that money, you will become a jack.
Yes. Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
You ain't gonna think
I
about
can't trust you with 1,000. Why would if I can't trust you with 1,000, why would I trust you with 1,000,000?
Yeah.
Right? If
Now, you see some of these rappers or celebrities who they might get they really like a particular type of vehicle. So now they want like 6 or 7, one for every day of the week in every color. And it's like, okay. But then you realize it's not what they're chasing isn't the thing. There's another void that they're using all these things to fill. So they're using the thing. The thing is just a symptom, right?
And that's kind of where we probably would need to hone in, you know, either side of it. You know, what are the voids? What are the needs, the essential needs? You know, what are the things that make life meaningful and valuable? And, you know, what are the things that bring joy?
Seeing other people, man. Seeing other people get it.
Say again?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was so earlier today when I was in session, man, one of the things that I tell people, one of my greatest joys is actually seeing the light bulb go off in people's mind.
Mm-hmm.
Like that little cartoon light bulb that's over everybody's head.
Mm-hmm.
When I see it go out, well, I mean, when I see it come on, man, that is like one of my greatest joys. That is my high. Like, yes, you finally have an opportunity to now get it. You now get it. And now you have an opportunity to move forward. Until then, it's kind of like I'm just trying to work at trying to get you to see it. Once you turn the light back on, I'm like, yes. So I'm thinking, that's what I like. That's what I enjoy, man. It's one of the things I live for.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Courtney, you good?
Yeah, I'm good. I appreciate that.
I have a small. This one is a much smaller. I never thought about that before. Oh, I had a small. Interesting.
Okay.
So Revelation 21 verse 12. Let's go to
21.
Revelation 21. There were some things in here that I was like, I'm making any sense. Maybe y'all can help me make sense of it.
Uh-oh.
Right. Oh, let's see.
I'm leaning in on you, Jerry, because I know you probably had a conversation with your father about this. So Revelation 21 verse 12. We start there. So my understanding is that chapter 21 is describing John's view of the new heaven and the new earth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in the new earth, the holy city, the new Jerusalem, comes down out of heaven into on the earth, right? I think that's what it says, verse 2, right? I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming out. It was dressed like a bride, beautiful for her husband, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why, verse 12, are there walls and gates in the city?
It had great high walls with 12 gates, 12 angels at the gates. On the gates were written the names of the 12 tribes of Israel. So it's not only 12 gates, it's 12 angels at the
At the gates. And they have guards at the gates. Why do you have angels, gates and guards on the new city? Why?
Isn't there a war or something that happens?
This is after everything is made new. This is the end. This chapter suggests that everybody who's evil is done, and
Okay.
the lake of sulfur, verse 8, but the others was going to everybody went in the fire, right? And then they describe this the second death, and then this new city, and this new city not only has high walls and gates, but guards at the gates. I'm trying to understand, why is that necessary?
That's a good.
But it would have been like that before it came down, though, right?
It's coming from heaven like that.
Right. So it already been like that. It's just down here now.
Yeah, but then that still goes to, like, so if it's in heaven, why do you need walls and gates and
It's a city.
in heaven?
I'm gonna go with just the definition in the sense of a city. It's a metropolis where at certain times there are things permitted and things that are not. So
right, exactly.
Right.
That's what gates are for, right?
Yes, that's what they're for.
So why in this earth made new do you need a city with gates?
Because I think there was still
and the guards, because they're not just gates.
Yeah,
they have guards on duty at the gates.
Yeah, because I think there's still order in community, right? You just can't walk up to God because you still have to pass by the four beasts, right?
No, there's no more beasts. There's no more beasts.
Well,
all of them in the fire by this point. That's a point.
I'm sorry, wrong terminology. The seraphims that guard the throne, right? There's still order. I'm just trying to make sense of your question because I think it's a very good one.
I did get somewhat of an answer to my question when I kept on reading.
Okay.
I might say, can we just read the whole thing?
We could read the whole thing. Courtney, you want to do that?
All right, I'll start from what verse?
We can go from verse 9.
9. All right. One of the 7 angels who had the 7 bowls full of the 7 last plagues came and said to me, "Come, I will show you the bride, the wife of the Lamb." And he carried me away in the spirit to a mountain great and high, and showed me the holy city, Jerusalem, coming down out of the heaven from God. It shone with the glory of God, and its brilliance was like that of a very precious jewel, like a jasper, clear as crystal. And it had great high walls with 12 gates, and with 12 angels at the gates. On the gates were written the names of the 12 tribes of Israel. There were 3 gates on the east, 3 on the north, 3 on the south, and 3 on the west. The wall of the city had 12 foundations, and on them were the names of the 12 apostles of the Lamb. The angel who talked with me had a measuring rod of gold to measure the city, its gates, and its walls. The city laid out like a square, as long as it was wide. He measured the city with the rod and found it to be 12,000 stadia, which is
1,400 miles long.
1,400 miles, and as wild and as high as it is long. The angel measured the wall using human measurement, and it was 144 cubits, so about 200 feet thick, or high. The wall was made of jasper, and the city of pure gold, as pure as glass. The foundations of the city walls were decorated with every kind of precious stone. The first foundation was jasper, the second sapphire, the third agate, the fourth emerald, the fifth onyx, the sixth ruby, the seventh chrysolite, the eighth beryl, the ninth topaz, the 10th turquoise, the 11th jacinth, and the 12th amethyst. The 12 gates were 12 pearls, each gate made of a single pearl. The great street of the city was gold, as pure as transparent glass. I did not see the temple in the city, because the Lord God Almighty and the Lamb are its temple. The city does not need the sun or the moon to shine on it, for the glory of God gives it light, and the Lamb is its lamp. The nations will walk by its light, and the kings of the earth will bring their splendor into it. On no day will the gates ever be shut, for there will be no night there. The glory and the honor of the nations will be brought into it. Nothing impure will ever enter it, nor will anyone who does what is shameful or deceitful, but only those whose names are written in the Lamb's book of life.
So the gates are decorative.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They're not closing, so they're not really, they're for decoration.
Okay.
So what's the reason for the guard then?
Well, it just says nothing.
Is that a welcoming committee or a guard?
Is it what?
Is the angel at the gate a welcoming committee or a guard? Is that like an usher? Hey, to give in the instructions and directions at the gate. So
it says 26 says all nations will bring their glory and honor into the city. Nothing evil will be allowed to enter it. So I guess that's where the guards come in. Nor anyone who practices shameful idolatry and dishonesty, but only those whose names are written in the book of life.
All right. But the first couple of verses, 8, 9, 10, suggest all those people that was in the fire already.
All right. Go on. I'm just wondering,
Huh?
I'm just wondering how much, we like to say there's what the Bible says and there's what it's saying.
Mm-hmm.
So John is writing what he's seeing, but I'm just curious as to how much of that is. I want to be careful with my words. I don't want to say actual, but so like you remember he sees different wars and so on happening, and he's trying to describe. He's talking about grasshoppers with shields of gold and whatever, and they're spitting fire from their wings and whatnot. He's probably seen an attack helicopter, and he doesn't have language to describe it, right? So even when he speaks about these 9 foundations and all these different things, I'm just curious as to if that's him trying to find a way to describe what he's seeing. Is it that the gate has these very ornate sculptures and he doesn't know how to say it? So he's like, okay, well, it has an angel. I don't know. Just
Fair enough.
It's literal. It's
Fair
literal.
enough. I wasn't thinking about literal gates, even so. I'm thinking that it's a city and the entrances to the city. My question is more a case of if you have gotten rid of all the evil.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's what you were
And
saying.
it'll never rise again because it says that, right? Evil will never rise again. So,
So if you get rid of all the evil, because there's even goes on to say there's no temple. There's no need of a temple.
right? Because God dwells with us, right?
Right. So that's why I like when I read on arcade, the gates are decorative. They're not really serving to secure the place, right? Because there's all these precious metal gates. You're not gonna use that. Somebody will come and jack your gates and take them, right? So the gates are decorative, clearly. So I was just curious initially when I was like, okay, and then I realized, okay, the gates are decorative. Good.
Yeah, but the angels at every gate, unless it's something figurative, it's like, or unless he's just an usher, like you said, as opposed to
God.
What's the scripture that said I'd rather be a doorkeeper in the house of the Lord than what is it?
Yeah.
Maybe that's what they are.
Yeah. So, yeah. Good point. Maybe they are welcome committee and guests and to help orient you and make you feel welcome in the city. Maybe.
Doesn't say they'll be there all the time. Maybe for us who are just getting there, you might be like, look, you want to go down Heavenly Road and then take a right on Chatsworth Boulevard to get to where you're trying to go, right?
Get to see a glass, right?
Familiar with the place.
Keep the trees in the middle.
Right.
This month,
right.
we have mangoes. If you come back next month, you'll get a porak. Yeah. Okay. All right. I can see that.
I think, Cliff, how did you say you just want the opportunity to find out, right? So
yes.
Let's just get the opportunity to find out.
Yeah. Sorry, this wasn't a major theological thing. It was more of a interesting,
I mean, the one thing I have learned is that God is very intentional about and meticulous in what he does. So they're there because they need to be there.
They need to be there?
Mm-hmm.
There's some logic that may not make sense to us, but makes sense to him as so it's there, right?
Yo, man, I would not want to be God. It's just too much.
Yeah.
It's too much. It's too much to keep up with. I mean, it's just
very particular.
To be very particular with everything in every aspect,
in everything,
every way.
There's intentionality in everything.
Because you have to.
I mean, Cliff, if you go back to the example you gave earlier with Best Buy, the amount of planning around your week and this guy's week, the number of things I had to just work just so for you all to cross paths, it's like, really?
Yes. And literally when I was in the aisle looking like I knew this was going to happen. Like I came over here for nothing and everything. And I'm sitting up there in a sense sulking in my own world. And I look and I see this dude pacing and going back and forth. And I was like, yo, is this why I'm here?
At least you had the presence of mind.
So I walk over to me and
walk away.
Yep.
And that's
why I had to be Cliff.
Yeah.
I just said I ain't listening to that voice never again. That must not have been God, because there's no way God could have told me come here and
And I didn't get this thing.
That
Yeah.
was it.
no way.
That was it.
I ignore that
Yeah.
voice.
Sometimes it happens like that, man. You or somebody else just comes by just for no reason, and you're like, I needed that.
Yep.
You're struggling, and somebody out of the blue says something that sticks with you, and you're like, I needed to hear that. Okay, appreciate that.
And if they end up
Water for the thirsty is such a vehicle that does that.
Well played. Well played.
That's true.
exactly. I want to add, Cliff, the backstory on your side. If he was to become aware of it, you're not just some random guy who shows up and happens to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Coincidence.
It's not that's weird. It's more when he hears your story, or if he happens to hear your story,
Mm-hmm.
he now has more understanding that there's a force that's intentional and sees him and knew what he would need in that moment and sent somebody from all before all to here, and it kind of helps to affirm faith. You know, when
Trust
God
me.
uses people like that.
Trust me, we had a intense conversation there in Best Buy. Everything, because I even told him that I was like, dude, God had to send me here for you because I didn't get what I wanted. Like,
I didn't come here for me.
yeah, listen, we had a conversation. Listen, exchange numbers and everything. Exchange numbers and everything, man. Talk, text each other for a while and all that stuff. Yeah, it was intentional, and I guess at that point God wanted me to make it intentional, so that's what I did. I really talked for a while. I got into the reason why he was really sulking and going through stuff, and then we prayed, exchanged numbers, man, and yeah, we was there for a minute.
Oh, that's what's up.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's up. Good. This week you had sent something from Luke 3. Is that something you still wanted to wrestle?
No, I mean, when I first saw it was one of those things that stuck out for a second and made me confused for a second. And then as I kept reading, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I think I answered my own question. And then you had text something after it saying, yeah, they were more, they were spectating. It kind of goes with the storyline. Because if you guys check the thread, it was just me noticing that it said that the soldiers were there when John was baptizing. And I was like, why would the Roman soldiers be there? Why would they be asking about that? But yeah, I answered my own question, so it was cool.
All right, cool. Anybody else had anything they want?
This is that time where we start over from the very beginning.
Yeah.
So I'm reading my my what you call books again this year.
Yeah,
so, yes, I am, man.
I got you.
Yes, I am. Just brought out a few things that I really wasn't paying attention and how whose sons and daughters actually hooked up to give more details of which kids, because when Cain went off into his land and had his kids, Adam and Eve still had theirs, and then they intermingled and still had other kids, and then it talks about Cain actually being killed by his grandson. You don't get that in Genesis.
I was like, wait, what?
You don't get that in Genesis.
I was like, can we find that verse?
That was in the book of Jasher. Yeah. So it was an accident, and it was an accident. Yeah, it was as they were getting old, and now I'm not gonna go into that because this Word for Thursday. I don't want to have people bombing you with comments and stuff. If you want, you can go read those books on your own.
Gotcha. Courtney, anything else? Or Lauren, you have something?
No, I mean it was just thoughts. It was just two thoughts.
Then share them, please.
Yes.
One of them was when he was observing the world in Genesis, and he was like, "Man, I wish I didn't make these people. I'm gonna wipe them all out." I thought to myself, in 2025, how many times that he said that between then and
not nearly. Not nearly. And I must say, it's not nearly as bad now than as it was then.
Really? Because I was like, how, like, what? Because the stuff I'm reading it exists, so I was trying to understand, like, what.
I would say we're getting it, though, Jared. We're getting it quick.
Well, I mean, maybe to Jared's point, it exists, but you know, how did they put it that men's hearts were evil continually, and it basically came down to what? Of the how many people on the earth at the time, it came down to 8, 10?
Yeah.
I mean, we know we want to believe we have a lot more than 10 remnant people right now, right? So it's like, yes, there's craziness, but I think that proportionally more people still centered in Christ and, you know, trying to be right so they can do right than, you know. The same thing with Sodom and Gomorrah. It came down to 6 people or whatever it was. 8 again.
Sodom and Gomorrah came down to 4 people.
4 people, yeah. 4.
Well, there you go.
It was a man, his wife, and his 2 daughters, and then it was 3.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't believe we had drowned everybody yet.
I think we might be, but I think he's holding the door open so more people can get in.
He's just following through on what he said. That's all. That's the difference. That's the only difference.
I would argue that the vision that one of the kings in Daniel had of the statue with the stone suggests that we'll never get there. Because the mountain, the stone broke the mountain and it grew. And if it is the kingdom of God that Jesus came and smashed the whole thing with his activity, then the kingdom is growing and it will never, while you may have to get rid of the whole thing, it will probably fill up the whole earth. And I don't, you know, I don't get the sense. And this is just my thought. This is just me, my own musings on it. I don't think
when you say
that place again. I think he was going to get up and say, all right, I'm done with the whole thing.
Right.
But I don't think it will come to the place, oh my gosh, everybody, they're acting the fool. I need to go in and wipe it out again.
Yeah, because they're what's is counted as the sands of the sea of the people that made it. So that makes it heaven. So he can't get to that point.
Correct.
Right.
Not only that, think about the parable of the wheat and the tares, where he planted the field and it had wheat growing, it had tares growing, and they was growing up together, and then he come and separate them. He didn't burn the whole field and didn't say I didn't find any fruit.
Right.
Right. So you know, I don't perceive, based on the scripture, another flood type situation on the earth in terms of the hearts of the people on the earth. Maybe those people are in a minority, but not like 6 of the total population minority.
Maybe a ratio. Maybe a ratio.
Yeah, I'll say, if you look at the ratio of people.
And here's why. Then it would mean that the kingdom is really ineffective.
Why would you say that?
No.
Because we know.
And the spirit would not have been doing its work in bringing people to that knowledge of Christ. And the kingdom wouldn't be growing in the way that, you know, the scriptures suggest that it would.
But this, and this is me just entertaining your comment. The scriptures also suggest that not everybody is going to be saved.
Absolutely, wheat and tares.
Right. So we are also in a kingdom controlled by the enemy that has his agenda, and we are growing if you will, underneath the umbrella of sin. So at
Yeah.
some point, Revelation even states that he has to come, because even the very elect might not make it. Because the longer I stay here with everything I know and everything I believe, the more I have to interact with what's going on here, the greater my chance starts to grow for me to be.
Allow me to make my case. Let's
Okay,
go to Revelation 14.
No, go ahead.
You said where?
14, Revelation 14.
Oh, okay.
He didn't give a verse yet.
Hold on. Hold on.
Did somebody put something in the thing? I got my thing on full screen. Okay.
Give me 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
Because while you're looking, like even back then, he was opening up grounds for lists. You know what I'm saying? Like people were getting swallowed up in the earth for lists. So now we're experiencing a lot more grace and a lot more mercy and a lot of things. So it may seem like we could be deceived to think that we're in a better position than we actually are.
1 second.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of like where my thought was. Not that he's gonna, flood the earth, because he said he's not gonna do that, but it's just, yeah.
Lose Cliff again. It's not Revelation 14. It's Revelation. Yeah, it's Revelation 7. 7, not 14.
Okay.
But I need to read from verse 1.
Okay. After this, I saw four angels standing at the four corners of the earth, holding back the four winds of the earth to prevent any wind from blowing on the land or on the sea or on any tree. Then I saw another angel coming up from the east, having the seal of the living God. He called out in a loud voice to the four angels who had been given power to harm the land and the sea. Do not harm the land or the sea or the trees until we put a seal on the foreheads of the servants of our God. Then I heard the number of those who were sealed, 144,000 from all the tribes of Israel.
You can skip from 4 and go straight to 9.
And all right, after this, I looked, and there before me was a great multitude that no one could count, from every nation, tribe, language, people, standing before the throne and before the Lamb. They were wearing white robes and holding palm branches in their hands, and they cried out in a loud voice, "Salvation belongs to our God who sits on the throne and to the Lamb." All the angels were standing around the throne and around the elders and the four living creatures. They fell down on their faces before the throne and worshiped God, saying, Amen. Praise and glory and wisdom and thanks and honor and power and strength be to our God forever and ever. Amen. Then one of the elders asked me, These in white robes, who are they and where did they come from? I answered, Sir, you know. And he said, These are they who have come out of the great tribulation. They have washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. Therefore, they are before the throne of God and serve him day and night in his temple. And he who sits on the throne will shelter them with his presence. Never again will they hunger, never again will they thirst. The sun will not beat down on them, nor any scorching heat. For the Lamb at the center of the throne will be their shepherd. He will lead them to the springs of living water, and he will wipe away every tear from their eyes.
That's a large group of people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And those are people who post Jesus' death. Yeah? So that's the mountain that grew really big. It's not a small group of people. I mean, it's small relative to how many people are probably living on the earth altogether. But they're not a small group of people. There's so many people you can't count them.
Yeah.
Because he said he heard 144,000, and then he looked and he saw a number that nobody could number. And that's why I don't believe that, you're getting another salvation. Too many people would have bought into the salvation that Jesus offers.
Okay.
Not everybody will, and
Right.
a majority probably will not.
Okay.
But his mission is unsuccessful if you get 8.
Well, no, that's not even where. That's not even where I was at.
That kingdom was worthless if only 8 people survive.
Yeah.
Or buy in or take advantage of the opportunity.
Not just those who are alive at the time it's coming, but think of all those who've been saved that have lived and died, right?
Right.
So you're talking, God knows how many people.
Right. My other thought was Genesis again. I was reading it with my daughter, and we were talking about how we were talking about chapter 3, and when we were talking, we were coming to the conclusion that like Satan's strategy is still the same. Like the way, obviously, he can maneuver and shift in certain aspects, but we were talking about how he makes you question what God told you. He makes you doubt the character of God, and then he makes you doubt what God told you. Like, so it's doubt what he told you, doubt his character, and doubt his intentions towards you. And like it's the same pattern. So if you like look at other stories or even your own life, it's the same thing. If he can get you to question what God told you, who God is, and what his heart is towards you, that's how he gets you.
We just preached a word there and you didn't know.
What?
Yeah.
Look at that again. This is character.
Yeah, he makes you question what God told you, because he told him eat the fruit and you'll die. Then he makes you question God's character, or what God doesn't want you to do, because he knows in the moment you die, you'll be like him. And then he makes you question God's intention towards you.
Wow.
And if he can get you to go with any of these, with these 3 things, you'll end up doing exactly what he wants you to do.
One or all of them, yeah.
All, yeah.
He locks
So
you.
they lead into each other. They lead into each other.
I'll ask you something. You was in a relationship with somebody who question your character, don't believe what you tell you, and don't believe, and always wondering about the intentions towards you. How would you feel about, what would you think about that person's love for you?
They don't trust you. It goes back to a trust thing. Because if I trust you, then I trust what you said, I trust who you are, and I trust your heart towards me. I don't trust you.
And even if things look a little iffy, you would, what you would do in that case? If you have this trust, but it seems a little questionable what you're observing, what do you do then?
I mean, it depends. If it's.
I'm not saying it is iffy. I say what you observe looks iffy. For example, let's say let's just go with Joseph because we've been using him all day. God, if he believes in God's character, believes what he told him about, what will happen to him because he got the message, and believes his intentions towards him, when his brothers sell him into slavery, that looks iffy. How do you handle it when it looks iffy? In that moment where, or let's go to Cliff talked about it today, Job. What you doing? Like, what are you doing to me? Because it looked iffy, right? When his friend
Right,
died,
but
lost all his wealth, and
but if the history of me and the person is one of, there's time and time again I have seen the character, I've seen this, I've seen all those things, then when the iffy happens, I can lean on what I know. So this is what I know. Yes, this looks iffy, but this is what I know from what we've experienced together. Now, if we've experienced all of this right here, and another iffy situation happens, then it could go. It could go either way. So it's all about the pattern and the consistency of that person's character. God's character has not changed. He has been the same from beginning to end. His heart's been the same beginning to end. And what he said, he meant it. His word doesn't return unto him void. So, but if Satan can allow you to question that and get you to doubt it, then all he needs is a foothold, and he can layer on the other stuff.
I was just saying that person would love themselves more, and that sounds exhausting.
Yeah.
If they thought that way about me, they don't think I am who I said I am.
Right. Don't trust you.
No wonder God would throw them people in a fire.
Well, I mean,
who wants to live in eternity with those kinds of people? Would you? Would you want to?
It would be an eternity.
Right.
Like that?
No. That would end. What do you say? A day is 1,000 years. Yeah, they would. That day would go by quick before we be back in war and kicking each other. Nope. No. Man, Job, you brought up Job, man. I tell you, Christ experienced sin and stress and everything where he was sweating blood in the garden, right? Man, Job had to bust a couple aneurysms or something, man. Because I mean, I read that thing again, because we ended the year with that. And if he wasn't struggling and going back and forth, like, yeah, I know, I trust who you are. However, this right here, but I don't want to sound like I'm complaining, because, however,
your intentions towards me right now. You don't feel like you have good intentions towards me.
Yeah, I don't feel that. You know what? You should not have even made me. I'm laughing, but I was reading that thing again. I was like, goodness, boy.
The hard part is it didn't have nothing to do with him.
Nothing. He was faithful for all intents and purposes. He was faithful.
You know what? That's what has happened to faithful people. You want to avoid Job's truth? I mean, situation. Don't be as faithful as Job.
See?
Okay, I'm joking. That's just a joke.
I know it is, but boy, I tell you.
Mezo says it would be like being in a perpetual relationship with someone who's insecure, always having to reassure them, no room to relax and enjoy the relation growing with. That would be stagnant. Imagine that could be me and God. Like, I could be that person.
Yes.
And I doubt his character, what he told me, and his intentions towards me. That's me.
Told you, man. That's why I said I couldn't be God, man. It's too much.
I'm
It's
not
too
equipped
much.
or qualified for that position.
Yeah.
But Cliff, I think you could be God a little bit.
Mm.
He knows in the
I say
moment.
it from this standpoint. As a parent, you're a little bit more tolerant and long suffering.
Mm-hmm.
I would
Yeah,
even say more so than if it was a spouse or a significant other. You're more long suffering with the children and them than with the grown folks and them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but at the same time, being God, I kind of already know how this going to play out.
As a parent, not the same. You don't have a fairly good idea as a parent. I mean, it's not perfect and it's not perfect knowledge, clearly. But you don't have a good sense of knowing your child, which.
Yes, but as an earthly parent, I have the distinct privilege and advantage of saying, all right, let me know how it works out for you.
You don't think God is doing that with some of us?
Yep.
The prodigal son's, the father in prodigal son story, right? That's exactly how Jesus described it. All right, let me know how I work out for you.
Yeah,
Romans 1 and 2 too. Yep.
Man. Yeah. I think God built me a little different sometimes.
Maybe he built you in his image. I don't know. Maybe. I just think, parents have a certain kind of a natural inclination that helps us better appreciate the next level of God, the next level. Because if we in our fallible state could get to this, imagine how much beyond us he is.
With 8 billion children. Gosh.
Yeah.
8 billion plus, because it's what? That's alive right now.
Yeah, right. You're right. Currently, the current children.
Yes.
Over 6,000 years, how much people is that?
A lot.
And you're looking at all of them, and here I'm saying this in the earthly sense. I'm listening to your nonsense, and I'm saying, you've never been 40.
Wow.
You've never been 40. God is like, yo, you've never been eons or whatever.
You ain't been 200.
You ain't been 200.
Like you're an expert in this thing.
And none of you even ever reach 1,000. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. All right. Let me know how that works out.
When you get to 2,000, let me know. See how much your perspective changed at 2,000.
Man, listen, parenting, I don't care how many books you read, I don't care how many seminars you go to, I don't care. It is an ongoing process.
Yes.
And the more you have, the more differences you have to learn to navigate. And it's like,
and in different timelines,
everything.
So, tongue-in-cheek question: as perfect as God is, you think He's learning parenting the same way?
No, because He's all knowing.
If He was all-knowing, He was all-knowing. He had to explain Genesis 3 for me. Genesis 4, Genesis 6. He had to explain Genesis 6 for me.
Which women? Hold on.
I mean, I would say
Genesis 6:6. Yeah.
6:6.
That don't sound like somebody who all know it.
Right. Well, I think what he meant was he grieved the plan that he had made. Like, all right, we're gonna make these jokers. We know we gotta go, but then, you know what?
This batch right here. This batch.
Well, listen, it got, like you said, it got so bad, only 8. everybody else that made it, he put to sleep. I put it that way. Everybody
Didn't
else
put
that
them to
would have made
sleep.
it,
He
he put to sleep.
drowned the others. He drowned them. He took my pipe and drowned all of them.
Well, you got to think. I'm thinking like of the ones that came before Noah, like Adam and Eve. Different folks that we are going to see. They were asleep. Everybody else got drowned.
I mean, maybe learning is not.
Because
Learning.
he was like, y'all jokers is y'all. It's like that old poem I heard years ago about and excuse me, on the internet. This is just a poem I'm reciting about Negroes in hell, right? Well, St. Peter, what I was talking about, the Negroes, and they was down in hell, man, installing air conditioning, doing all kinds. Come on, man. God looking down like, what is these jokers doing? Like they are going crazy. You mixing animals, you got animals having babies, and he tell you that babies with y'all into doing all this other crazy stuff. Y'all making up stuff as you go along, and it ain't good. It's just all
time,
bad.
all day, every day,
all the time. So, yeah, I think his grieving was the first time he did like this. First time he put his head on his forehead. Like, you know what? Yeah, so
this back was perspective.
I wouldn't say he's learning. I would more say he approaches each of us differently based on our personalities. And there's no two of us. There's only one of us. So
absolutely,
there's different ways that he handles Jared and Lorraine and Cliff and Courtney and Jerome.
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't have one of us beforehand.
I was asking about the collective, but I'm with you 100% on what you are saying. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, parents, they go through the motions, and we doing it first time just like you, just like Sharon and me. Leveraging our knowledge base and our understanding and our value systems, but the navigating is a whole new experience because we never actually did this before, right? And as much as you could know, you still never actually done it before. So that's kind of where I was coming from with humanity and not having. Well, I'm assuming he hasn't done it before. If he's a first-time parent, right? Is he learning as he goes in that sense?
A first-time parent dealing with the first-time rebellious bunch.
Or maybe not. I mean, if he had to deal, if he's the creator,
you're right,
and he created all the heavenly beings and some of
them.
Right,
but there's other beings.
Yes, you're right.
Maybe it's not a first time. Maybe it's a second match that you're in. I don't know.
Correct.
But he must not be a good parent if he gain all the rebellion. What was the quality of his parenting if he gained rebellion in heaven, he gained rebellion on earth, just...
I'm not going there with you.
I'm shaking my head like, no.
Just say, if it was another parent who was having rebellions on that scale,
right?
A wholesale war in their house.
Common denominator is
CPS would have been out a long time ago. See,
yeah, he just insisted he was giving people free will. That's
parenting style.
So yeah, I think one of those things that points out is the significance of free will in dealing with other individuals, whether it be children or just other people. That free will dynamic is not, people's choice of their free will is not always a result of your doing or not doing.
Yeah, because parents can do the right things and their kids still. Still.
Yeah.
This is why I believe we should not judge people's individual relationships with God. Our relationships won't be the same. Just like a parent's relationship with each child is different, yet love is present. And there's still the same rules in the house. While the rules in the house are the same, I don't think the parents necessarily treat each child the same, even in the face of the same rules.
You can't,
Why not?
because each
So
child
the
is
rule
different.
is the same. The punishment should be the same. Is this a
Can't.
rule? You do this, you will get a spanking, and everybody gets a spanking once you do this, no matter who you are.
Agreed. But some children will always get a spanking because they can't.
Perpetual spanking.
There you go. So you got to figure out a different way to help
Yeah,
them.
try a different approach. Try a different approach.
That's right.
Might
Different
even do
approach.
timeout.
As you talk about that, Cliff, I had one thing here in Nehemiah, Nehemiah 10:29, that just tied in there. And I was going to leave it, but since you brought that up, I'm going to call it right quick before we close out. All the men joined the nobles of their people. They made a firm agreement. They made a promise and said they would be cursed if they didn't keep it. They promised to follow the law of God. It had been given through Moses, the servant of God. They promised to obey carefully all the commands, rules, and laws of the Lord our God. And I wrote here, how many times have there been people, or have we for that matter, committed to being faithful to God's law with woeful consequences if we don't? How effective has that been? How effective are the consequences as a deterrent? Is there a more effective approach? Or is that just a risk of free will? Can anything truly incentivize faithfulness? I just look at these people who recommitted. They went back at Mount Sinai, they say, yeah, we'll do everything you say, and then they couldn't honor that commitment. Consequences don't help you be faithful. Incentives don't help you be faithful. Promising, you don't guarantee any kind of faithfulness. Is there anything that actually incentivizes faithfulness? And if we, and this, are these promises to, and oaths worthless, since nobody has seemed to have been able to honor those things except for Jesus?
I think everything comes down to character, right? People will do what they want to do for varying reasons. It might be an ideology or whatever, but this concept that you can influence somebody from the outside to do something that, how do I put it? To do what? So if I'm a generous person, it's easier for me to be generous. If I am a selfish person, it's like how much can you incentivize? I have to move away from selfishness and become generous before I can do these things freely and repeatedly. And as long as I remain a particular way, unless I become something new, different, better, then and I think you see that example even with the disciples where they were all kind of crazy, ragtag bunch. Both Peter and Judas denied Jesus, but in different ways, or betrayed Jesus, I should say, in different ways. Peter came around because he became better. Judas, well, you know how that went, right? So
I was just thinking about managing groups of individuals with free will, and the idea of, we sign this document that say we're going to abide by these policies, or we make this oath that we're going to be faithful to this, or we're going to join the group and adhere to the laws, or we're going to get married and honor these commitments. And just everywhere we turn, people, those mechanisms, promises, harsh penalties, nothing seems to incentivize faithfulness.
That's a choice.
yeah, I think it's just, and that's why Jesus came, to give us the opportunity to be transformed. If we're not transformed, we'll never be able to we would, anything that is right, moral, just, fair, any commitment we make, we'll be like, we'll wake up someday and be like, nah, I'm good. Not today. I'm just not in the mood, right? That's because we're temperamental and fickle and immature and all that other stuff.
So let's go with my last question. Can anything truly incentivize faithfulness?
Only a relationship with the one who is faithful. Because if you want to be more like him, you will take on the process and become a more faithful person. Outside of that, it can't just be I'll pay you X or I'll punish you with Y and you'll always do this thing.
So I was thinking more general and less Jesus-y, and we could talk Jesus-y as well. I'm thinking just more societal or individual relationship.
Well, here's how I look at it, Jared. I want my kids to read more. The best way to do that is for them to see me reading. So it's not so much an incentive in terms of like a force or whatever. It's an example I'm setting. I'm showing them, hey.
But I think incentives are value-based, and everybody's values are different. So there's no one thing that is going to work for everybody. So I don't think there's something that can incentivize faithfulness.
Yeah, there's no magic panacea for everybody.
So
it's just a choice. You just have to choose. It's a choice. You just have to choose to be faithful. That's it.
What makes people choose to be faithful?
Their values. It's tied to their values.
I'm going to say understanding.
Understanding. Unpack that.
People are, I feel it, and I'm using your word incentivized. I feel that people are incentivized when they understand the reason to be incentivized.
And find value in it, or just understand it?
Yeah, because going back to just what Lorraine said, it's value. We're born in a society that's value based. So I can say yes, I am going to do this, but I don't understand the concept of it not really being a long-term journey to get there. So if it's going, when I say yes, I'm going to do this, I'm thinking, week, 2 weeks tops. but I don't know it's going to take me a year or 8 months to continue this way in order to get there. So my what's the word? Incentive. I was trying to make it a longer word, but my incentive starts to wane because now I'm seeing other things from other people or from other nations, if you will, if we're going biblical, that seem to be enjoying themselves, and I am committed to this thing that I have not seen my reward from. But understanding that, hey, what I'm committing to may take a while, but I know it to be true. I can stick with it.
Okay.
That's my definition.
Understanding is key to perceiving value, is what I'm hearing from you. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Piggybacking off what Lorraine said.
Yeah, I'm gonna piggyback off you. I think there's I say a selflessness. And there's something that I think we've talked about on our platform has been others focused. So if you're showing or talking about these rules are set in place to protect something that we're talking about, something that's valuable, then it will be important to you if that person or that whatever I could say thing is that would make it, because I'm looking at I went like looking at the opposite is we're more prone to being selfish. So that would make it, that's what's making everything hard. If we're looking at, our selfishness could drive you to whatever, but the opposite is, I find value in this other other being, this other thing, whatever the case is worth me, preserving that.
I like those words. It's worth me preserving that.
Right.
I like that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right now, we value self, and we're all about self-preservation.
So it literally comes back to agape, is what I'm hearing you say. It's that perception of intrinsic value in the other that leads me to faithfulness.
Right.
It's not the promise, it's not the agreement, it's not the punishment or the consequence that's gonna, at least those don't help to sustain
It's just temporary. I'm gonna say it's a temporary thing. It don't last.
Right.
For so long.
Yeah. And I feel like that stems from what Cliff was talking about. You have that empathy, you can like build from that.
Z said something.
that was from just before we transition.
Uh
You're saying spanking is not the same currency of punishment for each child. It doesn't have the same impact.
Facts.
This is when I was saying if you have the same rule, you have spanking for this rule, you do this, you'll get spanking. That was my response to that.
Yeah, I saw that in real life growing up. One of my cousins used to get spanked, and he'd be like, "Are you done?" I'd be like, "Oh my gosh!"
Wow.
Wow, this is all we took. Like, you just had to warn me, and I was in line.
mm,
I have siblings
that's
that
it.
had to
That's
get
the
that
difference.
spanking, and they go in line. My cousin, like, "Are you done?" Because I got stuff I got to do. Like, what? That's crazy.
That never works out well.
But I mean, but it didn't work. It didn't work. Now, if you took the game away, oh, you took his whole world away. That was more painful than the spanking.
wow.
Yeah.
There you go.
I'm changing this.
And that's why I said parenting is an ongoing a life learning experience.
Mhm.
And at different phases of your life, you gotta adjust to. The old way doesn't work when they get older. You gotta try something else.
Yeah. You gotta know God is saying sometimes you don't love me. But Lord, I do love you. Man, you don't love me.
Oh yeah, I mean you love me. You love you more.
Yeah.
Hey, here we go.
That's
Here we
exactly
go.
it.
Here we go,
Yeah.
Courtney.
That's how I swear.
Oh, my
They're like,
goodness.
just nobody in particular, but I think if you're talking about relationship stuff, people look at you. I love you. To say nah, but you love you more. Like that's all it
That's all.
is.
And they'll be like,
I like
and so
that.
what? Aren't we supposed to love ourselves first?
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Well,
That's what I'm saying. It's like, all right, cool, got you.
Can't love you if I love me, right?
That's
Courtney, I
how
heard Darius Daniel said what sometimes it's our they love us, but their dysfunction won't allow them to love us the way they should or the way we deserve to be loved. That's like,
yeah.
Yep.
Still, and unless they address that dysfunction, guess what? You out of luck.
You're really out of luck.
Yeah.
Or the way we need.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's about them,
Yes.
right? They're not even studying.
Exactly.
Oh, Jared has a headache and he just wants somebody to listen to him right now. Yeah, but
However,
however,
I got a list of complaints.
What I don't notice how all of these conversations is always coming to that agape idea and how it is informed.
Yeah.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah, the answers have always been there in front of us. We just have a hard time.
Right.
You open these debates, but then you strip everything back and agape.
Yeah.
Answers this question and that question and this question and this question.
And then it goes back again to us not really wanting to work for it. Everything is instantaneous now. We don't have any longevity built in us anymore. I don't have time. I don't have that much patience. It's taking too long. On to the next thing.
Yeah, why wait for a cake to bake when you could go to Crumbles and buy a slice?
Hey, come on.
Well, cake.
Come on.
Mm.
Come on.
Man,
Come on.
somebody already have it there ready for me. I just walk in and it's ready. And when I
Right.
want it, it's ready.
It's ready.
They've already done all that
Yeah.
work.
Mm-hmm. Dang.
It's already there.
Ready made. Spoiled.
I already bought my cake slices today. I sure did. Yes, I did.
We're a little bit past 10.
So,
So I don't know if anybody else had anything else that they wanted to raise, but if not, I want to go around the room and do our takeaways. Courtney, I'm gonna start with you today.
My takeaway is cake. Nah.
there you go.
First
you
one
go.
for 2025. Nah. I just think that again, I just like that breakdown of us talking about contentment and even the comparison with that and complacency. And I felt like it just helped me to use all of those examples like Joseph and such, just being patient and being content in our place. And then it's just good to know that there are these times even when God is going to and can use us for his purpose at any given moment in that time too. So it was just interesting, that preparation for something, but also just us being content also can being opportunity to help somebody else to get to a place of finding gratitude. So that was a dope way to wrap it all up.
Word. How about you, Lorraine?
It is regarding like the contentment piece. The question that came in my head was, is God enough? I was reading the Blair Snell's book, and in one of the chapters he was saying basically the vigor we should have for our spirituality and prioritizing it. And he was saying like when we have our schedules and our to-dos for the day, like let's say you woke up late, do you then say I'm gonna just be late to work so I can have devotion, or you be like I'll have devotion later, or I'll have pray later? It's like that seems to always get the short straw. Like everything else has to come first. You gotta go to work, you gotta go to the gym, you gotta run this errand, you gotta take your kids, It's always the spirituality piece that tends to take a back seat compared to all our things. And so like it brought me back, like, is God enough? Is that something I prioritize?
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the key part to me being content, then it seems like it's something I need to prioritize in order to be content.
Word.
I'm gonna go with the definition I think Lauren found with that contentment in the sufficiency of Christ. Yeah, because as long as I'm in His will and I'm trusting His ability to provide, then and to know what's going on and to have every eventuality covered, I'm good.
Nice.
I can rest easy. Yeah.
How about you, Cliff?
I'm kind of coming down Jerry Street as well. My takeaway is going to be I am grateful that God has not closed the door on me yet. And this conversation tonight, it just makes me grateful, understanding that even though I do stupid stupid
Yeah.
stuff. I have another day to try to get it right, and so I'm just grateful. That's my takeaway.
Good.
Just being grateful.
I'm going with Lauren's questioning about Lauren's highlighting of the devil's prompting to have us questioning God's character, His word, and His intentions. Um,
Mm-hmm.
those spoke to me particularly today, so I'm going with that. No relationship is going to survive where one party is always questioning the character, the word, and the intentions of another. Um, and I can't imagine why I would expect my relationship with God to be any different. So
Mm-hmm.
that was profound to me. So thank you for that, Maureen. And make sure you tell your little one I said thank you for that as well. All right, I have two from Gerald. He said, I like the Genesis 3 comment about the way Satan tries to get us to reject, which I think is what I just said. So we both share in that comment.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, oh, and Cliff's Job comments. All right. I didn't see any others in the chat just yet, but we could go ahead and pray, and maybe there are others that will come while we doing that. So I'm gonna leave the note up. All right. Anybody want to volunteer to close us out in prayer today?
I'll go.
All right.
Yeah. Oh, Father God, we are indeed thankful for another year of life. We just ask that you give us the grace to make the most of whatever time we have left, that we focus on our relationship with you, learning to really love as you designed us to love, loving you firstly, then ourselves and others correctly. We simply ask now that you protect us, you preserve us, and you persevere with us. Amen.
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 All right. So we begin in the new year. We're going through this month, and we're going through Luke and Proverbs and Genesis. Yeah. We'll be back again on the 17th, and we have a fifth Friday in this month. So after the 17th, the next Friday will be February 7th. So we'll have an extra week off there because the 31st is a Friday.
Jared, we have another comment.
Oh, we do. All right. Thank you. Mezzo says as a takeaway, work on our character to be close to God's character, move forward with trust, and be open to His guidance. Amen. And amen. Yeah, man. So I'm looking forward to 2025 and what this cycle around the world is going to be for us. I noticed that even our conversations are a little bit different as we go through them, and the things that stand out to us, are different as well. So I'm excited to see what, where we are and what God reveals to us this year. If you don't already have a copy of the app, download it, read with us, and if you have anything that you did discovered or stood out to you in your studies, feel free to share them with us. And if you'd like to come on camera and converse with us, just hit me up, Facebook or Instagram, and we'll make sure and get you access to be able to join our conversations. Until the next time, I think we'll have the Bishop and Kenrick back, but until the next time, drink up and have a good one. We out.